Hi everyone, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. My name is Alicia and in this video I'm going to show you how I made this super cute summertime tumbler with the ice cube lid that's really popular right now, putting the fruit on with the ice cubes, and I've seen a lot of people do them, and it really does add a cute touch to this. I did some, a lot of bright colors was the request, and then I did this little hook here so that somebody, it's kind of a neat idea. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I actually saw somebody did post one of these, but I'd been thinking about, sometimes if I'm walking around, I don't want to carry my keys in my pocket. I want to hook them onto, something, and this is actually a good place to where you could hook your keys. So, or, any other thing, if you have, a badge at work and you want to clip it on there, or, whatever. So I made this one, this particular one removable, and then this one is permanent, but there should be no issues with cleaning it because it is resin, so that shouldn't, create cleaning issues. This one I would take off because it's got the little tassel. But anyway, so if you're interested to see how I did this, go ahead, stick around, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so I'm just going to speed this up. I'm just showing you how I measured out for my lines. I am using a 20-ounce slurp tumbler that I actually purchased at Michael's Arts and Crafts. So I just go in with my ruler. I think this one was 6.5, and so I did it about every 2 inches and split the difference at the top and the bottom. And then in order to get straight lines, I just stack things up and get my pen around the tumbler. I am using silver. I don't want it to be too bright because I don't want it to come through the colors, although, I'm going to put striping on this, so you're not going to really see it anyway. But, so, it takes a bit to stack things to get it exactly where you need it to be. I went and grabbed some paper. I've got rolls of tape. I grab a cup, and I go in there with my pen and, I just get it to where I need it and then just twist it around. So you get a nice straight line like that. It's, it's really a neat trick. It works really well. It's just measuring, getting it to the height that you need. But, paper is, if you have, a ream of paper, that's easy to just keep adding sheets to get your pen where you need it to be. So I'm doing the top. I'm using actually one of my cups here, my other cups that I'm still working on, and getting it all the way around the top. So there's going to be 3 sections. After I'm done with my lines, I'm going to go ahead and tape this cup off, and then I will be back. Alright, so my cup is all taped off, and if you can see, I have black electrical tape, and that's because it stretches better than the blue painter's tape doesn't stretch at all, and because the cup is tapered, it was easier just to do that. So I went in, instead of spray painting, I went in with this color acrylic paint. I bought a pack of it at BJ's one day. I saw it and I said, oh, let me try it out. It was pretty inexpensive or whatever. And so this, this color seemed to be closest to the color of the glitter that I was going to be using. In retrospect, I probably should have just painted the whole cup white and then went over. It was late. I was lazy. I was tired. So I went in and I painted a couple of coats of this. Next time I'm going to spray paint white and then do this if I choose not to do spray paint the entire cup, section off and spray paint. I wound up doing 3 coats of this and letting them dry before I moved on to the next step. I am going to use Mod Podge to apply my chunky glitter. I don't normally do that. I normally do chunky glitter with the epoxy method. I don't feel like dealing with epoxy right now either. So I'm like having like a really just kind of lazy night. So I'm going to dry this, wash my brush off, and then I'm going to come in and Mod Podge this stripe. So I'll be right back. Alright, I'm going to apply my glitter using Mod Podge, and so I just squeeze it on. I am using a brush to get it around that middle section. I do have a little mishap and lose the end. It just like came off. So I'm just going to go around the cup, make sure that it's nice and even. I don't want a thin coat. I do want a little bit of a thicker coat because I'm using chunky glitter. And normally, like I had said before, I would use epoxy to apply my chunky glitter, but I was feeling kind of lazy, so I figured I would just do it via the Mod Podge. So with that, you do want a little bit of a thicker coat. Make sure it all gets in there. And I'm going to be applying Ruby Red Grapefruit is the color by Glitter Makes It. It is absolutely this gorgeous, like reddish, orangey, super bright, really shiny. Love this color for the summer. I'm doing a full glitter dump here. I'm not holding back. I'm dumping straight from the bag because I do have shakers that are on order and I'm waiting for them to come in. And so after I do this, you do want to pat this glitter down. It is a chunky glitter. I am going to be doing 2 coats. And you want the glitter as flat as possible when you put on your coats of epoxy, because I will be putting 2 coats of epoxy on this before I sand. But I want to have, you know, it as flat as possible. I want to do as little sanding as possible because you run the risk of, if you have pokies, you know, big pokies sticking up, that when you sand it, you'll sand off the color. And this is polyester glitter. It's a high quality glitter. I probably won't have that problem, but I don't want to take that chance. I'm going to let this dry for about an hour before I go in and start on my second coat. And I will seal this with a clear coat before I go in with Mod Podge and my second coat of glitter. So while my cup is drying, I'm going to go ahead and start on my lid. I'm going to tape it up. It is a round lid with, and I sanded it first, so I did sand that. So down at the bottom, this is a thread-on lid, so I do want to tape it off and make sure none of that spray paint gets on there because I am going to take it outside and spray paint it. So I do that, and then I go ahead and I tape off the little hole where the straw goes through and spray paint it, and I will be back to show you the spray painted lid to start on my next step, which is I'm going to Mod Podge the top and I'm going to apply my glitter. All right, so I spray painted this with the Krylon Fluorescent Green. I don't think it has a color. I did not spray paint it white first. I probably should have to get a brighter color, but actually Kermit isn't that bright, so it worked out fine. I kid you not, I put 3 coats on there and it dried in like 3 minutes. It was like so fast. Of course, it is a really hot day today, so it was out in the sun and it dried like almost instantly. So I'm just going in with my Mod Podge and coating the lid with it. I did not take the tape out of the center, and I'm just making sure I get a nice even coat, as you should always do when you get, when you're using Mod Podge. This Kermit color is a super fine glitter, so it goes on really nicely and it's nice and smooth. And I'm doing a glitter dump on here. I am not holding back. I want to get as, full coverage as possible. I am only going to do 1 coat on this because I do like the color underneath, so you can't really see it, but I got really good coverage on it. So I am going to just do this 1 coat on there. I am going to take the tape out because I don't want it to be sealed to the cup. And then I'm going to let this dry overnight, and I will be back tomorrow to epoxy this. So I let this lid dry overnight, and then I took it outside and I sprayed it with 3 coats of the Rust-Oleum's Glow in the Dark. I want to see if I can get a hint of a glow on this cup as well. I'm hoping that it shows through the ice cubes. I have no idea if it's going to work or not. But I did go ahead and reseal my hole because I'm going to put a thin coat of epoxy on here. I am using Stone Coat's Quick Coat on here. I mixed up 10 mLs, but I don't know if it's going to take the entire 10 mLs. So I just poured it on. I'm smearing all around. I am going to get the edges, and I'm going to go a little heavy around the edges because I want the epoxy to drip off the edge. So it looks like melting, like the ice is melting and the water's dripping off. So I am going to go a little heavy around that part. So I'll get a nice thin layer, and because Kermit's such a super fine glitter, I shouldn't need more, and I'm not going to need more than 1 coat because I'm going to be putting ice cubes on top of it anyway. So once I am done this, I am definitely going to take that tape out of the center so that it doesn't get sealed to the cup. And I'm going to just let it dry like that, hope that it drips down, and let it dry for a couple hours before I move on to putting the ice on top. And you can torch. Don't forget to torch. Make sure you get out all those little bubbles. All right, now we're good until the next step. The lid's been drying a couple of hours and it did exactly what I wanted to do, and it dripped down so it looks like water is melting and dripping down off of the lid. It's absolutely perfect. I love it so much. So now I'm going to go ahead and get started and start with putting all the ice cubes and stuff on. To place this on top and put my straw as a guide. And so the supplies I have to do this are the limes, so the Ashland brand from Michael's Arts and Crafts, the ice cubes, also Ashland brand, and the Ashland decorative filler, which resembles crushed ice. I've got my UV resin, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to UV the first layer down, and then I'm going to hot glue. Whoa, knock that over. I'm going to hot glue the rest of the pieces on because it'll be quicker that way, and then I'm going to finish it off with epoxy and the whole thing so it gives it a nice good seal. All right, so I'm going to speed this up again. I'm sorry, guys. I did a lot of speeding up in voiceover in this video because when I put everything together after recording, it wound up being like almost 2 hours. It was like so long. You know, sometimes these tumblers just, you know, with a lot of steps and stuff, they take a while. So, you know, I tried to cut out what was absolutely unnecessary and, you know, speed things up. And you can, it's not so fast that you can't really, you know, get an idea of what's going on. But it was just, you know, to keep it from being super long and boring the crap out of everybody. So the first piece I'm putting on is my lime. And then I'm going to do my ice cubes, the 2 bigger ice cubes. And then I'm going to do all the smaller cubes. So I am going to not narrate anymore. There's nothing really more I need to say. I'm just putting that, UV resin on the bottom and then curing it through the ice cube. It worked really well. And I'm doing that for the first layer before I go in with my hot glue. And so now I'm going to hook you up with some beautiful, lovely iMovie music until this is done and we move on to the next step. Alright guys, the last part of finishing this lid is sealing all of this with epoxy. So I mixed way too much as I always do, but I've got my part A and my part B in here, and I've got a paintbrush, and I'm gonna just squeeze this cup and I'm going to drizzle this down into the ice. Oh, real quick before, and I already started doing this, so I'm gonna have to be really quick. So I did do my, see the blue in there? That's my painter's tape covering that hole again. I don't want to get any epoxy down in that hole, so I'm gonna just drizzle this on. I'm not gonna drizzle it on top of the big ice cubes. I'm just gonna do around. Just trying to get it in here. Make sure I get all these pieces nice and sealed. And I'm gonna go around the back side and get it in there. It's gonna drip a little bit. Wow, it's gonna drip a lot. That's why I've got catch paper. And it's just like pouring down the side because I'm like trying to get, like pour it in here. So this part may get a little messy. And actually it's dripping down the side and I'm okay. No, I don't want it too drippy because I already got the drips there, so. But you can keep some of the drips if you want. But I am gonna dip my brush in here, and I just wanna make sure that I get underneath in here so that I don't have lots of gaps where water can get trapped for, you don't want any mold to grow inside your cup for any reason. But yeah, I definitely wanna get like underneath this ice cube, this big one, and get underneath these little guys too, and make sure it gets all nice and sealed to the cup. I'm just gonna swing this around. I'm gonna swipe this with the brush. And I know you're probably like, you're using a brush. It's not silicone, but I'm gonna clean this off and I'm gonna show you how. So no worries, this will be fine. And I'm gonna just kind of brush another layer on here too of epoxy. I mean, it was pretty good, but we're gonna make sure it's nice and smooth. So I'm just gonna get down in here. And I want a little bit down. There's a little bit of like a hole in here, so I'm just gonna put that in there. And I can see it's like dripping towards my circle here. So I'm just gonna smear this around. Actually, I'm gonna pick this up and I'm gonna just let it leak out because I don't want it pooling up and around the painter's tape, because I'm gonna be pulling that out really soon. So if you got too much, just pull it off with your brush, that's fine. All right. So I think this is pretty good. This is gonna be nice and sealed. There's nothing on here is going to move. I've gotten underneath all these little areas here. All right, so it didn't take a whole lot of epoxy. All right, so this is gonna dry, and that's gonna be it for this lid. It's completely done. All right, guys. Oh, and to clean your brush, so I am going to take acetone, and I'm just gonna pour it in a medicine cup, just a little bit. And I'm gonna take my brush and I'm gonna dip it in, and that's how I'm gonna clean it off. And oh look, I probably had alcohol ink on it that I didn't get off really well. So, and that's it. And so I'm gonna just clean that off really well, and I'm gonna be able to use it again. All right, guys, so I will see you for the next step. Oh, sorry, one last thing before I go. So you wanna get that tape piece out, so you can either use like a glue stick to poke it out or a pencil, and just go up underneath and just loosen it up, and then go in with your tweezers and just grab it very carefully. So I got at least, there we go. All right, so make sure you take that out right away. All right, guys. now I'm done with this part. Alright guys, so I just put my second coat of glitter on, definitely much better. So I actually went outside last night and I sprayed it with the triple thick instead of the clear gloss. Oh, gotta run away glitter here. And I only did one coat of that, and then I went in and I put my Mod Podge on and I just put the second coat of glitter. It looks gorgeous. So I'm gonna let this dry outside and then I'm gonna spray it with the triple thick again. And the reason why I'm gonna use the triple thick is because I feel like the Krylon triple thick, you need less coats and it holds better than the clear gloss. That's just my opinion. You know, you can use the clear gloss, you can use whatever works for you, but I do, for the chunkier glitters, I do like the triple thick. So I am gonna let this dry and spray that, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna start on the bottom. Okay, guys? After I sprayed the Ruby Red Grapefruit glitter, I let it dry, and then I went and I sealed it off with, I used saran wrap because saran wrap kind of attaches to itself. So I covered it with saran wrap and I went and I spray painted the bottom part with the Krylon. It's the fluorescent yellow. So it looks kind of greenish because I did it on a silver background. I should have painted it white if I wanted it to be brighter. So learn from me, just make sure you spray paint the whole cup white first. Just save yourself the trouble. It worked out anyway, but so now I'm coming in with my Mod Podge again, and I am just making sure I've got a nice even coat, somewhat of a thicker coat because this is a chunky glitter too, and the color glitter that I'm using on the bottom is called Highlighter. It's bright like fluorescent yellow. It's got a hue of, when you turn it, so it's got kind of a color shift of orange and green. So it's yellow with a color shift of orange and green. It's really super pretty. It looks really, really nice on this cup. I think that the fluorescent yellow had been over a white base would have brought the color out even more, but I'm not completely unhappy with it. And so it looks really pretty. And again, this is the chunky glitter, so you're gonna wanna pat this down to make sure there's no pokies. I will do 2 coats of this as well. All right, guys, so I just put my second layer of the highlighter on this cup. And I don't know if you can see this, but it's really interesting because it is this bright yellow highlighter, but there's green and orange color shift in there. So this is like really super pretty. And this is gonna be a really versatile glitter to use in many, many projects because of the color change. So I just wanted to, you know, point that out. It really is super pretty. So the highlighter has 2 coats now, and I sprayed it with Krylon's triple thick. Gave Ruby Red an extra spritz of Krylon to hold it all down. We seal it so that we keep the glitter in place. We don't want it moving around when we put our epoxy on. So I found that the Krylon triple thick works really well for holding the chunky glitter. And after I put the 2 coats of Krylon on there, I covered up all of the glitter, the Ruby Red and the highlighter, with saran wrap, wrapped it all around to cover it, and then I went in with my lime green spray paint no, this one isn't by Krylon. This one is the Rust-Oleum's Key Lime. And now I'm putting my Mod Podge on. I'm doing a nice thick coat because this is another chunky glitter called Slimer. It is a fluorescent, no, I'm sorry, it's not fluorescent. It is a glow in the dark, and it is this really pretty like lime green crystally kind of color. And when it's not glowing, it does have silver flecks in it, so it's really pretty by itself, but the glow in the dark is just, you know, a nice extra feature. And so I'm going to go in with my 1 coat. I am going to spray it with the Krylon triple thick. I am going to come in with my Mod Podge, put on my 2nd coat, give it 2 more coats of the Krylon triple thick before it's ready for epoxy. And I know it's a lot of sealing because you have, you know, it's a lot of steps to do a cup like this when you're doing different colors, because you've got to seal each one. You don't want the glitters to travel into each other. So when you want to keep them separate and you're not ombraying anything, you know, it requires a lot of sealing. So again, like I said, I like the Krylon triple thick. I think it holds the chunky better than the Rust-Oleum clear or even the matte. I didn't want to use the matte on there. I'm going to let that dry and it's going to be ready for epoxy. All right, guys, so the triple thick is dry now, and the next step is I'm going to apply this jump ring to the cup before I do my 2 coats of epoxy. And so you want to make sure that when you're putting the jump ring on, that the part where it separates, where there's that little like gap where you would separate it to put something on it, you want to make sure that that's spaced down on the cup, and you want to get that sealed because you don't want any issues of it bending or anything escaping through it once you attach whatever charm or whatever it is that you're going to put on there. So the UV resin is really nice because it's like an instant freeze. So I put a dab on the cup, and then I put a dab, I put it in there, and I sealed it with, or I cured it up with my UV light. Now later on in the video, you're going to see that I did not do this well enough and that it comes off and that I have to do a fix to it. But for right now, that's initially how I attached it. It takes a couple, you know, really maybe like a minute to get it so that it's workable. Okay, first coat of epoxy, I am putting it on one section at a time because even though I've sealed it with the Krylon triple thick, I want to make sure that it doesn't travel. All right, so this cup has 2 coats of epoxy. I did not use quick coat because I was doing this overnight and then I was going to work the next day, so I wound up just using my regular epoxy. Otherwise, you can use the quick coat. So Stone Coat makes a quick coat. I think Cast Resin makes one now, Alumilite. So whatever one that you prefer. And I gave it a nice good sanding, and especially the top rim was pretty pokey, so I sanded that down really well. And now I'm applying my strips. So I have glow-in-the-dark strips that I cut out on my Cricut machine. The setting was 0.25 is what I used, and I wanted that a little bit thicker because then I'm going to come in with my fluorescent strips and put that over top, and I cut them at 0.15. So I'm just going to go ahead and just apply these. Now, you have to be careful with this vinyl because it's super thick, the glow-in-the-dark. It's a really thick vinyl, and it's not really super sticky. So the second you pull it up, it like loses its stick. So later on, I'm going to have to go ahead and I tried to UV resin it down, and that didn't work, so I super glued it. But you got to pull on it and make it as taut as possible because with this cup being a taper, it will like buckle the vinyl, if that makes any sense. So you want to avoid that because this is not, you know, a very forgiving vinyl. So you want to pull it nice and tight. And if you have to pull it up to reposition it, just beware that it may not stick to itself again, and you might have to like super glue the end so it doesn't lift when you go to put another coat or put a coat of epoxy over it. And so I trim it so that it overlaps just a hair. I've never been good at getting it completely flush, so I just trim it and it's just got a little bit of overlap. All right, guys, so what I just noticed was my little ring fell out, so I didn't have it secured enough into this place. So I went outside and I used my Dremel tool and I carved it out a little bit so that I can put this back in. So I need to make sure that I get, you know, this in really good and tight. So I'm gonna do UV resin again. Thankfully, I have more coats of epoxy to put on this, and I'm going to make sure that I get, you know, I get it sealed nice and well, you know, get this sealed in really good because I don't want it going anywhere. So again, you know, here are some of the issues that you may run into, so learn from my mistakes. What, baby girl?
I don't need biscuit treats.
Biscuit treats?
Yeah, like biscuits.
Oh yeah, well, what's wrong with the ones he has now?
They're all gone.
You gave them? There was like a bag of them the other day. There was like 10 of them left in there. You gave him all of those?
Yeah.
He's gonna get fat. You need to stop. It's like you eating all chocolate all the time. All right, so this is pretty secure. Again, I'm not gonna mess with it. I'm gonna put another little dab over this center here.
Are you going to use these scraps?
Yes, I am gonna use those.
Oh, well, there's like a hole.
I know. So what I did was I set my cutter and it cut down too thick. So be careful, because I can still use the color. But
why are there in stripes like this?
because I'm going to put stripes around this cup.
Look.
I know, I see that. So this fluorescent vinyl is pretty thick, and I cut it on the glitter HTV, and it cut all the way through, but I can still use them. I just cut too thick. Okay, so, or cut too deep. All right, this is feeling pretty good now. All right, so now, because I was playing around with my vinyl, you see how it's lifting right here? So I'm going to UV resin that down, because I definitely do not want that lifting when I put my epoxy on.
And this is my craft I made for my mom. It says my name, Aria. A-R-Y-A.
So.
And see those white spots? That's to make it extra look like a heart.
All right, so the UV resin isn't working to tack this down.
If you want to know how I colored it, look at the back, look.
So now I'm gonna pull out my super glue.
That's how I colored it. Then raise the front. Looks really
All right, excuse me. I need to get in my drawer. Be careful. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Thank you. Excuse me. Excuse me. Further back. There we go. And
thank you.
so I got these at the Dollar Tree, and when I'm having a real stubborn piece of vinyl and the UV resin isn't working, I use this little super glue. And I get it in where I'm having some trouble spots, and I just hold my finger on it and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. But this is what I use when I absolutely need to tack down vinyl and nothing else seems to be working for me. All right, and so I'm gonna do this one too, because this one's lifting just enough to where I know it's gonna give me some trouble when I put epoxy on it. So I'm just gonna put a dab in here. And just be careful with this glue, guys. This super glue is super sticky. That's why I use this, and it doesn't stick to it, which is really cool. But, excuse me.
Look, I have candy.
But if you get it on your fingers, oh boy. Make sure you don't stick your fingers to anything. Ask me how I know this. So I think I'm good. I think that's nice and tacked down now. So now I'm gonna come in with
green's my favorite.
I'm gonna come in with my colors. Did you draw on that?
No.
How'd that get there?
I don't know.
All right. So what colors do you think we should use? Should we use? All right. I'm gonna let you choose, because we can only choose 2, and I cut out 3. Should we use the yellow, the pink, or the orange?
This.
The pink?
The pink and yellow.
The pink and the yellow. Okay.
I got 4.
All right, so I'm speeding up and voicing over because what you just heard was my son coming in. He has Tourette syndrome, and so if you know anybody or anything about Tourette syndrome, people just don't have any filter. And so he came in, we were cracking up and we were joking around. He's kind of embarrassed. I said I was going to leave it in because it is kind of funny. It's not always like super serious and, you know, we got to cry a river because he's got Tourette syndrome, but my daughter talks a lot about it, so I just kind of decided to voice over and speed it up too, because I'm just applying stripes the same way I did the other stripes, so you don't need to see the slowed down version of it. So I'm just applying those and to get ready for the next step, which is applying my words. No, okay, so here we go. We've got the bright yellow and we've got the bright pink here. Whole lot of brightness going on. So now I wanted to get these on before I did up the tequila, the rum, and the vodka decals, because I wanted to know how much room I had for each section. So I'm gonna go ahead and design that, and then I'll be back after I've cut that out and I'm ready to apply. Okay, so I started applying my vinyl on the cup before I started recording because I knew it was going to take a little while. Used a holographic orange and this bright orange. Both of these vinyls are a little tough to cut and weed. The foil, the holographic is a foil, and the fluorescent is a little bit thicker than your regular vinyl. So I just wanted to show you real quick, that I did layer the holographic over the fluorescent off of the cup, and then I placed it. I actually wound up redoing the tequila one because it came over too close to the jump ring. So I placed it on, but then I later pulled it off, like recut it, redid the whole thing, and cut it and replaced it over because I didn't want it that close to the jump ring. Okay, so my vinyl's on, and because I'm using holographic vinyl, I don't want the epoxy to repel. So what I'm doing is I'm actually putting on a coat of polyacrylic first, and that's gonna just give it the epoxy something to stick to rather than repelling on my vinyl. So I'm just putting a very thin layer. You really don't need a whole lot at all. I'm only going to do one layer, and then I'm going to let it dry for 30 minutes before I move in with my epoxy. All right, guys, so my polyacrylic has dried, and I put my coat of epoxy, a layer of epoxy on it. So now I want to put these little pink flamingos, and these are super cute. Glitter makes them, they're called lawn ornaments. And so I don't want to sprinkle these on, because if I sprinkle them on, they're just going to be like everywhere. And I want them, I want them facing right. I don't want a ton of them. So there's a couple of ways to do this. And so you want to coat these with epoxy so that, if you're laying them on top, then you run the risk of them lifting. So there's two ways to do it. You can either just dip them in your epoxy and place them where you want them, or you can put some in the epoxy and then, kind of pull them out as you want them. So it's, it's up to you how you want to do it. All right, guys, speeding you up again because you don't need to see me place each and every flamingo on there because I'm going to do all three sections. So I just want to explain to you real quick. The reason why I dip it in the epoxy and put it on is because this particular cut of glitter is a holographic, so it's really shiny. So you want to get a good coat of epoxy over it so then when you do your next coat of epoxy, it doesn't repel. All right, so that's the idea behind this, and so I'm just going to continue on to place every single little one. I place a lot of them on there, and I'm just going to actually cut that out for time purposes. Hey guys, all right, so I am done with this cup. I love the way it came out. It is so bright and so cheery, and this little cute addition of this this ring on the side so that you could clip your keys or whatever on here. If she wants to leave this, she can. It was just a little something extra. I didn't show you how to do this. It's, it was really simple. And this is just resin, and, I have, all these resin molds, and I just, made these little things. So you can, make little resin things or whatever you want to hang on it, tassels, you make up something that's going to work for you or your customer. But I really, really like this. This is, you know, such a cute effect at the top. I will say though that it's made this cup a little bit heavier between the 2 coats of glitter and then with the ice cubes on top. So it does have some weight to it. But other than that, it is absolutely adorable. She loves it. I can't wait to give it to her. And that is it for this one. You know, I know it was a long haul with a lot of steps, so thank you for sticking around. Make sure you check the description below for all the products that I used or where you can find them. Please give me a thumbs up. That helps me. Please subscribe. That helps me too. And I will see you all next time. Bye.